If you're looking to make your acoustic drum set a whole lot quieter, I've got two really interesting options to look between, and that's coming up. What's up? My name is Justin. Welcome to 65 Drums, the place to keep on top of all things Edrum related. Hope you're having an awesome day. Now, this is a really interesting matchup because on the one hand, we have Zildjian L80 Symbols with Remo Silent Stroke mesh heads. Okay, so that's option number one. And then option number two is black hole mesh pads with cymbal mutes from like Evans or some other company. Now, both of these options, believe it or not, they're pretty much the exact same price. If you buy the RTOM Black Hole mesh pads, that's going to be $250. And then if you buy a set of Evans sound off cymbal mutes, that will be another $90 on top of that. All right. Now, if you buy the Zildjian L80s, you can buy a box set with the hi-hats, a crash cymbal, and a ride for $250. And then you can buy a whole set of Remo Silent Strokes for all of your toms, your kick, your snare, and that will be another $90. So as you can see, they're both pretty much the exact same price. So that's why this is a great versus video. I got to play both of these setups side by side, and here are my thoughts. So let's start off the comparison with option number one, Zildjian L80 Symbols with Remo Silent Stroke mesh heads. Now, these heads are really nice. Remo Silent Stroke, drummers all over the world are using these. They fit on nearly every single shell you throw at them. The one thing about these is that they're a little bit overly bouncy. They're more bouncy than like a 2 or 3 ply set of mesh heads, but these are a rock solid option, and they're incredibly cheap. A whole set of these for $90. Now, you could go all the way and buy something like Drum Tech Real Feel mesh drum heads. You can buy a whole package of those for about $300. So that's 3 times more expensive. It'll give you more accurate rebound, so it'll feel a whole lot more like an acoustic drum head. But for the sake of this comparison, we're going to stick with these right here. By the way, that universal compatibility that I was talking about, the fact that these fit on nearly any shell you throw at them, that's not necessarily a normal thing for all mesh drum heads. If you spend less money than you should on a mesh drum head, you buy something that's a little bit too cheap, it won't always fit on every single snare drum shell that you throw at it, which I found out the hard way. So anyway, these are solid mesh heads that I really do recommend. Now, the Zildjian L80s, I'm not as big of a fan of those, unfortunately. They do the job incredibly well. They're 80% of the volume of a regular, acoustic cymbal. They're incredibly quiet. No matter how hard you hack away at them, they're just completely, stubbornly silent, and I like that. And it also feels like an acoustic cymbal because it really is an acoustic cymbal. It's a metal cymbal, but it's like half the weight because there's so many holes drilled into this thing. It's absolutely insane. Now, there are Chinese knockoffs of the cymbal, and not all of them are this quiet. Just because you drill a lot of holes in the cymbal doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it to the amount of decibels that this L80 cymbal is at. So be warned about that. Sometimes it pays to buy the nicer stuff from Zildjian. My main gripe with those cymbals, though, is that they just don't sound that amazing. They absolutely do the job, they feel great, but they don't sound that amazing. When I compare them against the Zildjian Gen 16 cymbals, which have a really similar concept, they have lots of holes drilled into the cymbals, but they just have a nicer, more pleasant ring to them. The reason why those sound nicer is because they don't have this special coating that the L80 cymbals have on them. That's my understanding as to why they sound different. Also, the Zildjian Gen 16 cymbals have to sound nice because they have microphones underneath all the bells going to a cymbal processing unit, so they have to sound nice. The L80s, they don't really care about sounding amazing. All they care about is making them as quiet as humanly possible. Also, one other gripe about the cymbals is that because they're so lightweight, they do move around a lot while you're playing them. So a ride cymbal does have the potential to move around as if it was a pretty small crash cymbal, so keep that in mind as well. Those aren't major gripes though. It's still an amazing package that I do heavily recommend. All right, let's take a look at option number two, buying the RTOM Black Hole mesh pads with cymbal mutes from Evans. Now again, I played these side by side and I ran between the two and compared the acoustic volume. Now unfortunately, I didn't have a decibel meter with me, so I couldn't make some sort of scientific analysis of exactly how loud and quiet both of them were. But I did notice that the RTOM Black Hole mesh pads were a little bit louder because if you hit hard enough, your stick will actually bend through the mesh head and it will actually briefly touch the Mylar acoustic drum pad underneath it if you play hard enough. If you're playing quietly, then it doesn't really matter as much, but you're still going to have the acoustic resonance of both the top head and the bottom head of those drums. So keep that in mind. It's not going to be quite as quiet, but the main reason to buy these black hole mesh pads is that you can take them off in an instant. There's no lugs or anything. You don't have any clasps that you have to do. Basically, you put these on your drums and then you take them off instantaneously. With the Remo Silent Stroke package, you actually have to, carefully unscrew everything and then put these on and then, tune it all up again. And then when you're done practicing an hour later, you got to take these off and then carefully retune the acoustic heads. It's a big pain in the neck. Same with those cymbals. If you have the Zildjian L80 cymbals, you have to take them off the stands and put them back on and take them off and put them back on. With the whole cymbal mute thing, it's basically a mouse pad that's hanging on top of your cymbal. It's really quick and easy to take it off. And I do like those Evans the sound mutes for the hi-hat. It's a different kind of rubber, and it actually goes underneath the lip of the hi-hat, so it sort of mutes the bottom resonant hi-hat as well. So I like that whole mute system. I feel like it's a little bit overpriced at $90 for what it is, but still, you can probably find cheaper options out there online. So if you buy either one of these packages, it's just going to be a hair above $300. So that's within reach of a lot of drummers out there, and even within gift giving range of some people. And yeah, so if you have a drummer in your life that you want to give this to, go buy this. It's actually a really cool Christmas present. Now, you might be wondering why I'm saying this on a drum channel, but believe it or not, there's a ton of guitar players and keyboard players that watch all these videos. I'm not exactly sure why, but thanks for watching. So to sum up my position on all this, I feel like the whole cymbal mute plus black hole mesh pads is the clear winner. You could pair the black hole mesh pads with Zildjian L80s if you wanted to and sort of have the best of both worlds. But I feel like it's the clear winner because of how quickly it is to transition between playing it as an acoustic drum set and playing it as, a silent acoustic drum set at 20% of the volume. I feel like it's the better option just because it's a lot easier. If you're going to play with a more permanent setup and you're just going to keep the mesh heads on it, then maybe go with the Remo Silent Strokes because it's really not that expensive, just like $80-$90 to buy a whole set of them. And if you're going to play with just the Remo Silent Stroke heads for months and months in a row, then you don't really care about being able to quickly transition between them. When I was thinking of the pros and cons of both of these sets when I was initially planning this video, I was thinking of maybe a drummer who wants to play acoustic 99% of the time, but wants to practice silently maybe once a day, maybe once a week. And so this is just a way faster way to do it, using these pads that you just put on the drums and then take off at a moment's notice. And you don't have to take cymbals on and off the cymbal stands. So yeah, I feel like that's the clear winner in this matchup. I also found when running back and forth between the two drum sets that the black hole mesh pads, it made it sound more like an acoustic drum because both of the drum heads were still there. The resonance of both of them made it sound like a really, really quiet, muted acoustic drum set. And the Remo Silent Strokes, they do sort of sound acoustic-y, but not quite to the same degree as the black hole mesh pads. Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know it in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll see you in a few.